Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're plunging into this really captivating world,
Mm-hmm.
crafty criminals, the art of the con.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic.
We've got a couple of guides. There's Jesse DeRoy's Crime Reads piece he wrote, Safecracker, talking about like the appeal of these clever thieves in books.
Hmm.
And then the North American Securities Administrators Association, NASA, they've got some really practical advice on spotting con artists, in the real world.
Right, the real deal versus the stories.
Exactly. So our mission really is to kind of figure out what makes these crafty crooks so compelling in fiction.
And how the real ones operate.
Yeah, and hopefully we all get a bit sharper at spotting them.
Absolutely. It's quite striking, actually, how the fictional schemes, the charismatic characters,
Mm-hmm.
they really do echo the tactics you see from actual con artists.
Mm,
So looking at both, I think we can get a better handle on the psychology
yeah,
and, maybe more importantly, how to protect ourselves.
totally. So DeRoy, in his article, he kicks off talking about his own character, Duke Duquesne, from Safecracker.
Right.
He sees Duke as this criminal MacGyver, sort of, or maybe like a jazz musician just improvising through a heist.
I like that comparison.
Yeah, like making thermite from rusty bolts and aluminum foil,
Uh-huh.
or using a ketchup packet to like mess with a digital lock.
It's that cleverness, isn't it? The resourcefulness
Yeah.
that's what grabs you.
Right. It taps into that, I don't know, romantic idea of the outlaw outsmarting the system.
Definitely. And he mentions the sting, which is such a classic example.
Oh, yeah.
That feeling you get watching the con artists, stay one step ahead, pull off these complex plans.
Mm,
It's a thrill.
it really is. So to dig into this literary side, DeRoy highlights a few key books. First one is The Big Con by David Marrer from 1940.
Wow, way back.
Yeah, and get this, Marrer was actually a linguistics professor.
Okay, that's interesting.
He immersed himself in the world of these old school grifters from the early 20th century.
So he had this unique viewpoint, right? Being an academic, looking at their
Yeah.
whole subculture,
Exactly.
especially the language.
Mhm.
His linguistics background let him sort of decode their slang, like a cackle bladder.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, according to Maurer, it wasn't just slang. It was like the first part of the con.
Yeah.
Softening the target up, flattery, big promises.
Ah,
It shows it's not just about the money, right? It's about building a story, using words carefully to exploit social weaknesses.
that's fascinating. And DeRoy says, the text changed, but a lot of those basic cons Moore wrote about still around today.
The fundamental stick.
Then he talks about Elmore Leonard's Out of Sight, Jack Foley,
Jack.
super clever bank robber.
But he messes up.
Yeah, exactly. Like that fake bomb thing in the bank robbery. So bold.
Leonard's great at that, isn't he? Showing characters who are smart but also, human and flawed.
Right.
Foley pulls off these daring moves, but his own weaknesses trip him up eventually.
And DeRoy compares it to Ocean's 11 and his own book, Safecracker. There's this sense that the characters almost enjoy the game itself.
Yeah, like the planning, the execution.
Yeah.
That's part of the reward, maybe more than just the cash.
Okay, then there's Lucy Sante's Low Life. Different angle here. It looks at the actual criminal underclass in New York City, way back, like 1840s to World War I.
Right, so this gives us the historical grounding.
Yeah. It shows how the real lives of these, swindlers, con artists, even crooked cops, how that stuff shaped the stories we tell, our whole imagination, really.
It's important context, because the figures we see in fiction, sometimes they seem glamorous, right? But low life reminds you they often came from pretty harsh, real circumstances. Shows how these marginalized groups influence the archetypes we still see.
And Sante apparently introduced DeRoy to A.J. Leibling's The Telephone Booth Indian,
Labeling.
which sounds like it captures this whole bygone era with some really colorful characters,
Yeah.
like Jack Pfeiffer, the wrestling promoter.
Oh, yeah. What was his line?
Something like, "A honest man can sell a fake diamond if he says it is a fake diamond, ain't it?"
Right. It's absurd.
And Count de Pennies and his cockroach hustle, whatever that was.
Labeling gives you these more, humorous anecdotes. But even Pfeiffer's funny quote, it kind of touches on persuasion, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, framing things, using language to shape how people see something. Even if it's ridiculous, it's still about trying to deceive,
Huh. Good point. Okay, then Donald Westlake's The Hot Rock.
Dortmunder.
Yeah, DeRoy says he's this super skilled thief who's just incredibly unlucky.
Right. Murphy's Law, basically.
So it's less about the perfect crime and more about the comedy when everything just goes wrong.
Westlake brings in that element of chaos, Even the best plans can fall apart. Makes Dortmunder kind of relatable despite being a thief.
Right. But then, total contrast, Richard Stark's the hunter, Parker.
Parker, yeah, he's the opposite. Ice cold, brutally efficient, all about the details.
And DeRoy connects Parker's, meticulous planning straight back to his own character, Duke, that focus on the tiny things that make or break a heist.
Parker's the archetype of the calculating professional. Zero emotion, just planning and execution.
So you've got the unlucky guy and the super planner.
Yeah, it shows the range, doesn't it? Different approaches to stealing stuff in fiction.
And last one DeRoy mentions is Steve Hamilton's The Lock Artist. More psychological, apparently, about a young safecracker.
Mm-hmm. Dives into the why and the how from the inside.
And what's cool is Hamilton actually taught himself lockpicking for research.
Now that's dedication.
Yeah. DeRoy said that really inspired him. Shows how getting the technical details right adds that authenticity.
Definitely. It makes the story feel more real, more grounded, even when it's fiction of, breaking into things. Blurs the line a bit.
Okay, so that's the literary side. Fascinating stuff. But let's switch gears now and bring in the real-world advice from NASA.
Right, the practical side. How to spot these folks.
Yeah. They have these rules. Rule number 1, blending in.
This is so fundamental for actual con artists. They know trust is everything.
So they work their way into your circles.
Exactly. Political groups, community stuff, church, senior centers, wherever they can build connection. Seem like one of the group. Then they use that rapport to push their scams.
Makes sense. Rule 2, dressing for success.
Ah, the image. Yeah. Projecting wealth, professionalism, nice clothes, maybe an impressive-looking office.
Which might just be a mailbox rental.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's all facade, right? Designed to make you think they're successful and trustworthy, purely based on how they look. Lowers your guard.
Okay. Rule 3, pushing products that are hard to understand.
Classic tactic. They love complex financial stuff people don't really get.
Because then you feel dumb asking questions.
Exactly. Or you just give up trying to understand and let them handle it for you.
Yeah.
Ness is really clear here. You have to educate yourself. And only deal with advisors you can check out, people with a real, proven track record. Never just hand over control because something sounds confusing.
Good advice. Rule 4 gets a bit darker. They try to bring out the worst in you.
Yeah, manipulating emotions. Big time.
How so?
Well, greed, obviously. Promises of huge returns, no risk whatsoever. Fear-like, warning you not to tell anyone or report them. And insecurity, making you feel stupid if you ask too many questions or hesitate.
Wow.
It's potent stuff. They try to bypass your logical thinking by hitting those emotional buttons. You got to watch out for when your feelings, not facts, are driving decisions.
Okay, rule 5, fair weather friends.
Yeah. Super friendly and attentive before you hand over the money.
Calling all the time, updates.
Exactly. Then, once they've got your cash, poof, suddenly hard to reach, evasive.
That sudden radio silence is a big clue.
Huge red flag. Shows their only real interest was getting the money, not any kind of genuine partnership.
Gotcha. Rule 6 is a big one. For every silver lining, there is a cloud. Lots of warning signs here.
Yeah, this covers a lot of the classic pitches, like hot tips nobody else knows about.
Guaranteed returns, which should always ring alarm bells.
Always. High-pressure tactics. Get in on the ground floor now. This will last.
Right, creating false urgency?
Or when they claim they invested their own money.
Oh, yeah.
Or promise you can get a refund if it doesn't work out. Or just brag that everyone makes money, no downsides.
So basically anything that sounds way too good to be true.
Pretty much. It probably is. They try to rush you, downplay risks, avoid giving you details in writing.
So you need to push for that. Written info.
Absolutely. Details about the investment, who the promoters are, the financials, their track record, how the salesperson gets paid. And importantly, they should be asking about your experience and how much risk you're comfortable with.
Good point. Okay, last rule, number 7. Simple but maybe overlooked. Don't be afraid to sleep on it.
Crucial. Just take a breath. Don't get swept up by charisma or excitement.
Especially if you don't have everything in writing.
Exactly. A legitimate opportunity will still be there tomorrow or next week. Give yourself time to think clearly, do your research, resist that pressure to decide now.
Okay, so we've looked at the literary cons, the real-world tactics.
Yeah.
How do they, connect? It feels like that charm, the persuasive talk. it's there in both, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Persuasion and building trust, even false trust, are central to both fictional and real cons. Maybe the fiction focuses more on the cleverness of the scheme itself, whereas the real-world advice is geared towards spotting the techniques they use to fool you, the manipulation.
And are they tapping into the same basic human stuff, like our desire for easy money, fear of missing out?
Oh, definitely. Greed, FOMO, maybe even a bit of ego, thinking we're too smart to fall for it.
Right.
Those are the vulnerabilities they exploit, both the fictional masterminds and the real crooks. It really highlights why critical thinking, that healthy skepticism, is just so vital.
Yeah. Helps you enjoy the stories, but also protect yourself in reality. Well, this has been really eye-opening, a proper deep dive into these crafty crooks, on the page and off.
It's a compelling subject.
For sure. The cleverness in the books is fun, but seeing how similar tactics play out for real, it really hammers home why we need to recognize the red flags NASA lays out. That's our best defense, really.
No doubt. And, thinking about it, the sheer ingenuity, the psychological understanding that both the fictional and real con artists display, it's quite something. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about human creativity, how that same ability for complex planning and, well, manipulation could be used for good or for this.
Yeah.
And what does that ultimately tell us about just needing to stay vigilant? Keep asking questions in this complicated world we live in.